welcome to Yoganuary day 4 for your yoga challenge, and today is my first how-to video on a posture. So you guys might think, okay, it's a bit basic, but we're looking at downward facing dog because it's a posture that we use so often, and actually it's pretty hard. There's a lot to think about. So I think that when we go to classes and things like that, we're kind of racing through a lovely flow and things like that, and the teacher can only tell you so much, right? A teacher can't give every single person a breakdown of their pose. So I am going to do my best to give you guys a bit of a overall look at a basic downward facing dog and then some of my favourite variations for you to go home, or if you're at home now, for you guys to practice today. So today we're all about the dog, or the downward version. So I'm going to tie my hair up and we're ready. So the way that one of the really good ways that I have learned to find the correct spacing between my hands and my feet in downward facing dog is to come into a high plank. So we come into our high plank, and from here we wave the body all the way back, and here is about right. And a lot of the time that feels a bit too far apart, so a lot of the time, I won't lie, I maybe wriggle my feet in a tiny bit, but that is about right. You want to be able to go between downward facing dog and plank without wiggling the toes back and forth. So once we're here, we want to really focus on the spine alignment, so the lengthening of the spine. Now, I'm quite flexible, so I have nice loose hamstrings, so I can keep my legs straight. But for a lot of people, in order to keep the spine straight, we need to bend the knees, and that's fine. I wish I saw more people in my classes bending their knees. So often when I say as a teacher, and I know that other teachers get this too, when we say option of bending the knees here to lengthen the spine, people are like, no, I don't want to do that. But it's so much more beneficial to you because you're then really nourishing the spine, which ultimately that's a really important part of our body, and that's a part of our body that we want to keep as lovely as possible. So we also want to focus, we're going to start with our foundation. So when you're in any posture, we'll start with the things first that are closest to the ground. So our hands, we want our fingers really nicely spread apart, and rather than just pressing down into the heel of the hand, it does make it harder, but what you really want to do is really have pressure down through all these fingers. So if your teacher walks around to the class and goes like this, tries to flick your finger up, ideally you want them to stay put on the floor. Now it's a real telltale because a lot of us, including myself at times, we just put the weight through the palm of the hand, the heel of the hand, and our fingers are all like jelly. But we really want to ground down, root down into the mat and send that energy downwards. So once you've got that, we then want to have the eye of the elbow facing each other. So this part of the elbow, they want to be facing in. I'm not the best person to show you this because of my joints being so rotated and hypermobile. My joints don't align like a lot of other people's, but that's kind of where we're heading. So the inside of the elbows to be facing each other. But where this bit feels like it's going inwards, we want the shoulder to be coming outwards. So we want this to be opening up. We don't want to be like this in our downward facing dog. We want to be nice and open. So, are you with me? I told you, it's a lot to know, and it's one of those postures that we jump straight into, but then we're like, oh, it's quite a lot to learn. So we've got the hands. We want our hands and fingers spread. We want the elbows in slightly, rotated I mean. The shoulders coming outwards. The spine nice and long, and the bottom, so I don't know if you can see this change, but here I can have my tailbone like sort of tucked under and my heels are down. But what I really want to do to feel the stretch all the way up the back of my legs is to curl my bottom up. So I'm not doing it from my back. I'm not trying to arch my back. All I want to do is just to lift my bottom up. One of my teachers used to call it blossom bottom because you go la la and your bottom raises to the sky. So if you can kind of work with that imagery, then that might be good for you. Then, like I said, a really nice bend at the knees is amazing for a downward facing dog because you can then focus on the straightness of the spine. So that's entirely up to you, and that will totally depend on your bone construction and your muscle flexibility. So all of those things will play a part. Then we want to draw the heels towards the floor. That doesn't mean that the heels need to be on the floor, not at all. We just want the feeling of them drawing down. The toes are very much on the floor, on the mat, as are the ball of the foot. But the heels just need to feel like they're drawing down there. So they don't need to be fully on. We want to have a little bit of room because we still really want to work with that. So that's your feet. Just going back to the middle of the body, we've also got the ribs. Again, I'm not necessarily the best person to show this to you because I have a very bendy body and very flary ribs, so that's something that I have to work on all the time. But we want to try and keep the ribs soft. What we don't want is this. We don't want that. That's not going to help anybody. I'm really, really sending my ribs out, therefore I'm arching in my spine. And that's just not straight, is it? We've got too much going on there. So if you can try and keep the ribs nice and soft, it's a really, really good habit to get into. So that is your basic downward facing dog. I think I could probably do a whole workshop on downward facing dog. It's a tricky posture. But some of my variations now are, I love a downward facing dog twist. But you do need to walk your feet in a little bit for this, just so you've got the stability. And I take my right hand to the outside of my left ankle, or if you can only hold the calf, that's fine. And then I pull round and look under the left arm. And I get that twist there. And release. And then take it on the other side. Again, being mindful of those ribs. And release it down. Let's just get back into position. And then I love to use this wave motion. So coming all the way forward into my high plank. Now you see, I've obviously stepped my feet too far forward because I'm so far over my wrists. So I need to put, oh, got a nice hair there. I need to put my hands and my feet the right distance away. Then wave that motion all the way back, downward facing dog, bringing it forward, curling through the body, back again. Really, this really works the abs. Really, really good core exercise. Coming forwards. And then exhale, going back. So that's a really, really great way to work on the core. Other favorites are three-leg dog, where we put one leg up in the air. If you really want a challenge, which I love, is to have the one leg in the air and the opposite hand. You're probably not going to be able to see my leg in the air, but just so I can show you. Again, you might need to walk the foot in a little bit further. So I'll send my right leg up, and then I've got my balance, and take my left hand off. Woo. And then I'd repeat that on the second side. So these are all little things that I add into my flows just to make the downward facing dog a little bit more interesting and just to jazz it up a little. There are so many things you can do. They're just some of my favorites, and so my challenge to you on day 4 is to just give it a go. I'd love to obviously see pictures of your favorites. That twist is really, really nice. It's really nourishing for the insides of the body because we've sort of got that wringing out effect. And then obviously the three-leg dog is really, really great for the balance and using all your stabilizers. So, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy working on your Ardha Mukha Shavasana, downward facing dog in English. And I will see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.